What's going on, guys? It's Tyler from Mission VR, where it's my mission to bring you guys good quality VR content. So this is kind of a unique video in the fact that I was actually in the middle of making a Why is Onward So Good video whenever they released update 1.8, and that really had to change my video, so I kind of had to really readjust. So it's been a little while since I've uploaded, that is why, but this is really what I wanted to talk about is Onward Update 1.8, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there are definitely some things that, are not so hot in this update, and some things that I actually did like. So before we hop into this video, I do want to mention that I did a giveaway for 2 videos ago. I named the winners in the comment section of that video. I'm going to display those names on the screen right now. So if you're one of those people, please get in contact with me through the comment section of that video so I can get you guys your Steam keys for that game. Like and subscribe to my channel, and let's go ahead and hop on into this video. So, before we even start talking good, bad, ugly, all these things, what did they actually change in the game? Well, the whole game pretty much changed. They did add quest support, which, did bring a lot of players to the game, so got to give them credit for that. Their method of implementing it, definitely not the greatest choice and how they went about doing so. They changed a lot of the key graphical features, everything from like the suppression mechanics to, the way your character looks to the actual graphics of the level, and they definitely just missed the mark on a lot of that stuff. So those are the things that they majorly changed. They changed the sound design, they changed some of the AI functionality, and some of the, different game modes, I should say, with how the enemies are laid out in the co-op mode in particular. So first, I do want to talk about the good stuff in this update. So the one good thing that I will say is that the game is still Onward. Despite some of the major changes that have come in this update, the game really is still Onward, and I think that that's the most important, is the core gameplay is still pretty much intact. A little bit of change to it, but for the most part the core gameplay is intact. It's still a mill sim, more realistic, and has some of the nice features that everybody's come to love about Onward. One of the other things that I surprisingly, and you guys will know I've talked about Onward sound design in almost every shooter video I've had, at least mention it once in there, and I have praised Onward's overall sound design very much. So when I found out they changed all the sounds, I was I really expected to be disappointed, and I actually was not disappointed. But there's, again, like I said, it's this update is really the love-hate update, because there are some gun sounds that I really love them now. Like, they sound great. Then there's some other gun sounds that just don't get the job done. They don't have that punch. Now, the developers did say that they are working on this, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to that, is give them a chance to let this update roll out and adjust the things that need to adjust. But for the most part, I really do like some of the new gun sounds. They have a little more bass, they have a little bit more punch to them, and I like that a lot. It's something that I personally do like. Now, some of the gun sounds, like in particular the pistols, are terrible. They have, they're not loud, they're nothing. They don't sound like guns, they sound like you're playing an arcade game, and I think that that's something that I'm not a fan of in the sound design. But I do like some of the newer weapon design sounds. But for the most part, the actual overall sound design did take a hit. And the sounds of, enemies firing their weapons, to the gunfire around the map. It's not immersion breaking, and it's not bad, but it's not what it was. And I think that that's really, where that comes in. But those are really the good things, is that the game is still intact, and, I actually did like some of the sounds. And like I said, it's this love-hate thing with this update. It's like there's some good things, and then there's some not so good things. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the bad next. So there is definitely, I think, more bad in this update than there is good, but I don't want to let the bad overshadow, the future that this game actually holds. Because, quite frankly, them adding quest support, I think, was a good move. I just don't like the way they implemented it. And I think that, the way that they changed the graphics of every single map in this game, I think was quite honestly a mistake. They should have made a very low-end graphical setting, and that would have been maybe the quest's high-end setting. Not knowing exactly the specifics of how that would have worked, if that would have even been possible. I'm not a game dev, so I don't know if that would have been possible, but I just think that changing the overall graphics in this game was a mistake, because they were actually pretty good beforehand, and they definitely took a hit. You can see it on the maps. I mean, there is limited shadows. I mean, the guns just don't look as good. The details in shrubbery and, little things in the houses, they just don't look good anymore. They don't look sharp. They look, cookie cutter. It's just not, it's not very good. And even on the highest settings, it's just not very good. And again, you're not playing a game for graphics, but, in a VR game, especially a realistic military sim, it helps to have good graphics. Now, some of the other things that I really did not care for, the new suppression mechanics. It gets a black circle that zooms in on the screen. Not a fan. I don't like anything that limits your field of view at all, especially because you're already dealing with, in most cases, a 110-degree field of view headset. If you're on an index a little bit higher, but in the most case, you already have limited field of view. So, anything that increases the field of view, or decreases the field of view, I should say, is just not something that I really enjoy. I guess it's not the end of the world, but I was fine with the way it was before. Another thing that I really am not a fan of in this update is the new night vision. It really doesn't do a good job. It limits your field of view really heavily, and again, like I said, we're already dealing with a 110-degree field of view headset, so the new night vision just really limits it even further, and the graphics, it makes it a lot harder to see now, which I guess if you, again, not having ever had military grade night vision goggles on, maybe that's what it more so looks like, but again, I don't know. And the thing is with it, I just don't really like it. I thought it was very serviceable the way it was before. It was fine. And, in the night vision, the new laser sights, when you turn the laser on, you have that nice neon white line. Well, now it honestly just, it looks really bad. It looks really unrealistic. It just doesn't look good. I don't like the new night vision at all. I'm not a fan of it. It makes it very difficult to see. And quite frankly, I mean, it hurts the graphics of this game, and it hurts the night maps. I mean, I see not as many people wanting to play the night maps anymore. The other big thing I will say that this is the most alarming part of this update to me is that the AI in co-op mode has changed dramatically. They're not good. They are not very good at all anymore. And not to say that they were the greatest before, but they definitely made it more challenging, where now it's like they took away the squad mechanics where you can put a certain amount of enemy squads on the field, and now they just made it enemy count, which is fine. I actually don't hate that, because if you go up, it actually goes up to 128, AI now. So that can promote some unique strategies about how to go about that. You're going to have to find ammo boxes to go into it, because you can't just run around the map with the short magazines that you normally would be able to have. If you're going to have 128 enemies on the field, if you're going to take a submachine gun, you got to kind of think about how that's going to go. So I don't hate that, but the AI mechanics have changed. So if you have 128, it's not all 128 at one time. They do spawn in, which is fine. The spawns are terrible though. They don't consider where you're at the time. Sometimes they spawn on top of you. Sometimes they spawn right next to you. It's just not very good, and you get overwhelmed a little bit too quickly, and it doesn't feel like you're actually pushing the strategy of, trying to take out 128 enemies as a group of 4. It's a lot of people to kill, and, you have to kind of plan for it, but at the same time, it's just not very well laid out. The AI now have a new dying, ragdoll animation, and it's okay, but it's all kind of the same, and they really needed to kind of add some variety in there. I'm not against it totally. I think it's one of those love-hate things. Like, there's times where you push around a corner and you shoot an enemy, and they kind of get stood up by the stopping power of your rifle and fall forward, and it kind of is badass. There's no doubt about it. But then there's other times it's like they do the same falling forward mechanic when they shouldn't. So again, it's one of those love-hate type of things with this update. Also, another thing that they really didn't do a good job of is that now all the enemy AI have the same weapon. They all carry the AK-5C. There's no variability. There's no variability in enemy types, which there really wasn't beforehand since they took the heavy out. But They really made them all, there's no sights on them. If you pick it up, it's just a standard AK-5C. And, this kind of is not something that was, very good, because you had variety in at least weapon types before in the enemies. The other thing I will say, I know it's a small thing, but the sound design overall, like indoors, is sometimes really bad, when other people are firing or your teammates are firing, and the grenade sounds just are really sci-fi-y, which is odd for a military shooter. Overall, I mean, this game is still Onward, and I want to preference that it is still Onward, but the developers definitely did it a disservice with the way they've released the Quest update. They should have gradually changed, certain things. Like I said, I do like the sound design, but they should have tested every sound, because everybody liked the realistic style of the guns in the game beforehand. That being said as well, the graphics I felt were very mismanaged in this update. They should have kept the graphics the same way and just figured out a way to lower the previous graphics they had to match the Quest specs. Again, not being a developer, I don't even know if that would be possible, but that would have been my first look at, instead of graphically overchanging everything. I know they wanted continuity throughout the game, but the reality of it is sometimes that's just not possible when you're dealing with something like a Quest compared to a PC VR headset. Now, I do want to say that I have some high hopes for this game going forward. I'm not by any stretch of imagination saying the game's dead. There's a lot more players on and a lot of Quest players, which is always a good thing. But I do think that the game has a bright future going forward. I mean, obviously we know Downpour Interactive is very committed to this game. They've been committed for years now. And to be fair, they did need to probably get some income coming in, as most VR players, everybody that owns a VR headset, for the most part, owns Onward. I mean, it's been on the market for a long time, and without any new VR headsets coming out, the PC VR player base is growing steadily, but, not enough probably for them to get a huge chunk of income. So I get why they went to the Quest. I understand. I just wish they would have handled it a little bit better. That being said, if anybody from Downpour Interactive does watch this video, I will say that I don't understand why developers don't make paid DLC, but actually affordable and worth the money, not like $15 to $20 for like 2 hours of content. I'm talking about if you guys went out and created a campaign, maybe a 4-hour campaign, and that's just part one, and the part one, and you charge $5.99 for it. I'm pretty sure a lot of us would probably spend the $5.99 for a 4-hour campaign using Onward's mechanics, and then maybe 6 months later you guys release part 2 and then part 3, and charge small increments, $4.99, $5.99 for those DLC portions, because I think a lot of us have gotten so many hours out of this game that we would be very okay to put a little bit more money into it. I mean, I know I bought this game, I think, for $19.99 way back when, and I've got over 100 and some hours on it. So, I'm okay. If I want to spend $5.99, I will absolutely spend $5.99 more on some campaign content. So I think that going forward, instead of just abandoning the game or trying to get it into other VR headset markets and doing it kind of in a lazy way, get some paid content out there. I know a lot of us would be willing to buy into that a little bit, depending on the price, of course. I would not charge $20 for 4 hours of content, which a lot of these AAA games do, but make it reasonable. And I think a lot of us are going to keep playing this game. We have a very dedicated fan base, and Onward is still my favorite VR game of all time. It's the game I spent the most hours in, so I really love this game. I hate to see the game take the hit that it did in 1.8, but I do have faith that the developers are going to fix it. And realistically, if you are on the fence about this game, I would maybe wait a little bit until they fix some of the little bugs. I mean, there's definitely some game-breaking bugs right now in 1.8, one of them being the maps do not load from screen to screen. If you're in a co-op lobby, you're picking a new map to go onto, it freezes. And that is a very, very annoying bug, because that means you have to go out of the lobby and find a whole new lobby. So, and that has happened to me a fair amount of times now. So I definitely hope that they fix that as fast as possible. But I would definitely wait a little bit till they clean up some of the bugs, fix some of the graphical things, maybe, again, the game is still Onward. It still has a lot of the core gameplay mechanics to it, so I wouldn't pass off on it, and by no stretch of the imagination is the game dead. Well, guys, that is it for this video. Remember to like and subscribe, and also, if you are one of the people that have subscribed to my channel and commented on that video that I was doing the giveaway on, make sure you go check it out so I can get you guys your Steam keys. But I will see you all in the next video. Thanks for tuning in.